Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us wherever in the world you are listening to us from, whatever platform you are listening to us on. Thank you so much for the continued support and the continued positive messages. Keep sending those our way. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to bringing you today's episode. As you guys know, listeners, I love talking about culture. I love talking about program building and just all of the other aspects to coaching besides the very important X's and O's, but all of the other, quote unquote, intangible pieces that go into building a program. And I'm so excited to have guests and continue to have guests who like talking about culture and talking about program building. And my guest today is no exception to that. The topic for this one is the idea of a we over me culture. And we're going to talk with our guest about the process of developing that culture, where my guest works at, how that culture has been tested, some general tips of advice, and just sharing some ideas about great positive culture. So I'm very happy to be joined by the coach at Frontenac High School, the head boys basketball coach, Coach Jared Pyle. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. As I said, always excited to talk culture and talk to people who are passionate about building strong programs and building strong individuals. So this will be a good one. Coach, let's go ahead and get started with your journey, the basketball journey, the coaching journey. Where has it taken you, and what led you to Frontenac?
Well, I was born and raised in Frontenac and attended school here. We were a 2A school at the time. Now we're a 3A school, moved up a little bit, but attended school, played sports, ended up marrying my, with the time was my kindergarten sweetheart. We never did in high school or anything like that, but went on our separate ways and found ourselves again. And later on in life, we always stayed in touch and we're best friends. But so we are here, and my wife's a dentist, so we run several different dental clinics. And then I'm fortunate to be employed by Frontenac High School as a basketball coach. Started out doing a lot of different mom and pop teams at a young age. Loved basketball, just wanted to be a part of it. And so worked with a lot of different teams like that, some smaller AAU teams, and traveled around. And my wife was a manager for Roy Williams at KU. When she was,
oh, wow.
So she had a lot of connections. And in turn, when we got married, we kind of shared those connections and went to different events and camps with not only our kids, but with teams that we coached and throughout the nation, from the East Coast, West Coast, to 5-star, to Jordan's camp, to, obviously Coach Bill Self's a really good friend of mine, and his camps, Mike Bray, great friend at Notre Dame, and Roy's camps in North Carolina. And so we had a lot of connections, and it just it's been an amazing ride over the years to get to work with people. Coaches, in the most part, are some of the best human beings on the face of this earth. I really believe that. They children, and they have the power to, empower kids and their children's futures. And they're just super motivational people. So it's been a great ride. Now I'm able to share that. Had the opportunity to take an assistant job there at Frontenac 6 years ago, and then last year I had the opportunity to take the head job. So it's been fun.
Absolutely, and a lot of people you've met along the way, a lot of conversations that you've had, I'm sure, about just basketball and so much more, of all of the people that you've got to know, and that's awesome. And real quick, because I'm very fortunate, as a show, that we have listeners who are even from around the world who listen, and when we talk to coaches who coach at places that maybe don't jump off on the map to some listeners, I wanted you to set the stage, Coach, of what is Frontenac, the town looks like. You grew up there your whole life, you coach there now. So for an outsider, if you were to paint the picture of what Frontenac is, what would they see, and what's the community like over there?
Well, it's about 2 blocks along the downtown, and it's nestled in a area that has which is Pittsburgh, Kansas, which is about 25, 30,000 people, and a few other communities around it. And there's a Division II college there. Frontenac's a little Italian community. It's had deep tradition in football, sports, girls basketball, baseball, and basketball's been good there. The boys basketball team never won a state championship, but they've been there several times. And so, it's one of those type of communities. It's not a private school; it's a public school, but it has that private school feel. I always tell people Frontenac is so special to me that I'd like to build a huge fence around the whole town and not let anybody else in. It's so special.
I like that a lot, and I get the sense that sports are huge in that community, and that high school sports, and that the town itself kind of rallies around the high school programs, around athletics in general. Am I right in thinking that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The town thrives off of it. The school thrives off of it, and it's just a neat thing. When people at the coffee shop are talking about it, and the community leaders are supporting financially the programs and the kids and helping them get to where they want to be.
That's fantastic. You really get the sense that like everybody in the town is looking out for the kids and the betterment of them, and supporting them as people and as athletes. That's fantastic. Coach, as we talked about in the onset, the topic for today is about the idea of a we over me culture, but I did want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit of X's and O's. What do you like to run? What do you like to get out there and do on the court in terms of offensive and defensive sets and philosophies? What is your primary like go to in a perfect world that you like to run?
Well, as far as I'm a defensive guy, I like to
I like it.
press. I love thriving from getting your offense from your defense. So as far as defense goes, I thoroughly believe that to play really, really good teams, you got to have a great man-to-man defense, and you have to teach these kids toughness, and you have to teach them to talk. And without vocal teams, it really is hard to do. And anymore, I've worked a lot of camps over the nation, and I hate to say it, with social media and Snapchat and all these things, kids have a hard time vocalizing and communicating. But you get a team that is tight knit and can vocalize what they want, and like I always tell them, even if it's something wrong, say it. And go, if you're making a mistake, go 1,000 miles an hour making it. And if they can play a good man-to-man, we do a lot of we teach a lot of hard hedge and hedge switching, going over screens and trapping on the hedge ball screens in high school, because you find that a lot of guys can't handle the ball very well. And so we do a lot of pressure. We do a lot of talk and help side, and then I like to throw in. We do a little defense called a 4-1, and you get it from Syracuse, and it's a spread 2-3. But kids can shoot so much nowadays, so we get 4 guys, and I say toes up on the line, and they get out on the 3-point line, all 4 guys, and we got a guy in the back, quarterback, and our big or number 5, and that kind of throws teams for a loop. And if you can throw that in, we'll switch defenses about every other time down the court sometimes. And when you can communicate and get a good communicating group, you can really do that. So we'll run a 1-3 half court, and we'll do a 1-2-2 kind of a man to zone press, and we call it the wolf up on top, and he jumps the ball. So we go. We try to get deep. We're 11 deep this year, and we try
that's
to
excellent.
Use the bench and exercise everybody's legs. And on offense is really it's just like anything. You have to have athletes, but if you can spread the court, I tell my guys 95% of the game is played without the ball. So if you can, move without the ball and really cut and finish your cuts through the net, and we do a lot of off-ball screens instead of ball screens, off-ball screens, and that, you can be successful.
Yeah, and I really like the part that you emphasized about like having to work on your players' ability to communicate, as I think it's so interesting that our players now more than ever are in more constant communication with others, but yet that doesn't necessarily mean it translates to in person actually communicating with somebody on the court. It's kind of funny how that works out.
Yeah, it is. It's sad that with the social media and everything, kids, they have a hard time being vocal, even when they're in the same room together. One drill we work on that is when we have a lot of team dinners and that, we put our phones in a box. And for about the first 5 minutes, everybody stares at each other. And then about 10, 15 minutes later, everybody's talking and visiting and laughing. And so it's kind of I'm an old school type of guy, but it really relates to back when you get on the court, they can start feeling comfortable saying and talking to each other.
Yeah, it's something that, and you know this too, it has to be explicitly taught how to communicate. I remember one of the mistakes I made when I was a younger coach was assuming that players knew how to talk to each other on the court, how to communicate and have those conversations. But, and again, I'm sure you know this, that has to be something that you build and explicitly teach. Otherwise, the results will kind of speak for themselves on the court.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a coach's job to pick up on that and understand the guys that are comfortable talking, the guys that need help on doing that.
So as we get into the idea of a we over me culture, let's talk about how that motto, I suppose, how did this idea develop, and what was kind of the process behind wanting to have this culture at Frontenac?
Well, I've kind of always been this type of guy, but being the head coach this year, I had, like I said, literally 7 seniors. One was not healthy, but 7 seniors, 3 juniors, and about 3 sophomores that could literally play the same level. They're all very good. And so I had to come up with a idea behind this because I knew we were going to have, before season, we were going to have some issues with guys wanting to score and guys worrying about their playing time and different things like that. I knew I had to come up with a concept, even more than ever. And so a good friend of mine, Fred Quarterbaum, KU's the director of basketball operations there, he published a book last year, and it's called the Positivity Tribe. In the Locker Room, the Positivity Tribe. And so he sent me a copy of that book, and I took that book and read it. It's a simple read. It takes about an hour to read it. And from there, I just took this concept and I ran with it. And it's basically just a we over me aspect, and we rise above by lifting others up, and that's the concept. And so we took that, and it's got several challenges and goals in there, and talks about his career. And what we do is we make sure that there's 7-point creed: be kind, positive, grateful, encouraging, humble, generous, and forgiving. And then, the other aspect of this culture, we write this every day on the board. Culture is communication, understanding, love, trust, us, relationships, and energy. And we emphasize these every single day in practice. And we really don't think we've had the same starting lineup. I don't think in the last 6 games we played, because I want to make sure that we focus in on letting everybody know that no one person's more important than the other. We have a 6'8", 6'9" kid, and he missed some practices over Christmas break because he was in trouble at home. And he came back and he thought he was going to play, and that's not how I was going to do. So we played in the last Friday night without him. He was suspended, and he had to make his practices up. And it was, like I said, it was the toughest game of the year. And we won it without him. And that doesn't mean we don't need him. That doesn't mean that.
Sure.
But it also that we can do things. It's it's bigger than just one person. And I try to emphasize that to him about life too. If you're going to be a part of something, it's better to be a part of something that's bigger than me. And it's bigger than the coach. It's bigger than the school. It's bigger than the town. It's bigger than you. So we emphasize that. And I tell you what, we've got a group of guys that kind of, any 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid's going to want to see his stats, want to see his,
of course.
And I just emphasize to him, we got a huddle and we break down film and that, but stats are for losers, guys. And it takes a big coach and a big person to say that, but I'm a firm believer in it. I want to see the rebounds. I want to see the shots, who's taking what. But, if everybody can buy into that concept, and I get it, some teams have, this all-star, and they've got to get their shots. But we have guys like that too that have to score, but we emphasize touches on the ball for those guys. And then what we always emphasize is off-ball touches. That's more important than ball touches. And a lot of guys don't understand what that means. But what it means is that touches in practice, butt slaps, high fives, fist bumps. When we started this a long time ago. I think it might have even been Dean Smith that gave Roy this, but when you make a bucket, whoever gave you that assist, you got to give him some credit. Either point to him, if you run by him, high five, whatever. But if we don't give it up to that person that gave him that assist, they come out. And it doesn't take very long when a coach wants to do the right thing and take that gentleman out, that young kid out for just maybe 30 seconds, explain to him, that's not how our culture is going to go. And sometimes building culture is not easy. And it's, sometimes we get too hung up on wins and losses, and everybody wants to win, right? But here's the deal. What coaching is a part of is making these kids better fathers someday, and husbands, and better bosses or better employees and stuff like that. So, when you can buy into all that and can get that through them, you're going to be more successful. When the shot clock goes off, you're going to be more successful. And so we're really push that every day in practice. We want communication, more touches. We have a lot of drills that involve touches and talking, and we involve, like, give me your favorite color, or your girlfriend's name, or your favorite car, or your favorite NFL team, or your favorite NCAA team. We're talking, we're communicating, and they're laughing, and they don't realize it, but they're building a culture.
Yeah.
And the next thing we have it. So it's a tough for a coach to provide that, to give that, that practice has to be tougher than the games, but it's a challenge. And if you're a good coach and you're ready to put your mind to it, there's a lot of resources out there that you can go through. But like I said, we took this book. I would highly recommend it. It's in the locker room, The Positivity Tribe by Fred Quarterbaum. I would highly recommend it.
So when you're talking about the idea of, stats are for losers, and you're talking about the idea that, those sort of things, and emphasizing things with, the end all be all being like winning. And then you also talked about the concept of, starters. It's not that big of a deal, and all of that. I firmly understand that. But the process of explaining that to your players and having your players understand that and be fully convinced, for a lack of a better word for that, what was that process like? Was there an immediate, okay, we got it, we're all in, or was there any sort of adjustment period to kind of this maybe new way of doing things that maybe some of your players just hadn't gotten used to yet?
Yeah, I think the first game we started, guys, and then we had 3 practices after our first before our first game, because we went to state in football. Mm-hmm. And so small school, most kids play football too. And so we had three days to get ready and play probably a school that was about 3 times our population in Missouri, and we beat them in overtime by a buzzer beater. And so from there we changed starters a little bit in that, and we have a few kids a little shell shocked, and they're sitting there, and but the thing with it is, kids crave discipline. They crave discipline. And they want that. And if they understand that you're doing this because you love them, and that you're going to make not only them better, but you're going to make the program better, the proof's in the pudding, and they buy into it. And there's a couple of guys, we've had to sit down and have a little conversation with, and they responded well. They responded well to it. And the thing with parents and that,
I was going to get there. You got
good. If you have a good parent meeting at the beginning of the year and explain your expectations and what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, usually your parents are on board. I mean, your parents, they want what's right, and they want what's fair, and they want to see the kids do well. And like I said, when you explain what your expectations to them are in that, normally you don't have an issue. At least we're not. And I'm sure there would be instances where, but here's the deal too. If we have guys that are performing and putting their effort in and doing real well, we're going to play them. We're going to play them a lot. It's the guys that, that are having a hard time buying into the program and want to pout and have the its, all the its. It's too early. It's too hard. It's too late.
I like that.
We don't do those. We don't do that. So we got some guys that do it, and we still got a few guys that do it. And we set them down on the end of the bench, and when they get done doing their its and get ready to be a team member again, they can go in. And I've watched a couple college coaches explain, body language. That's huge. Body language. And like I said, we'll never play a person with bad body language. I'd rather lose games. That's the culture we're building. Rather lose games than play guys that have bad body language. You'll never play. And and when we pulled people for that, and then one of the kids, his dad, he knew it. He called me and he thanked me for it. His dad thanked me for it because listen, if they're having that bad body language on the court, they're probably having bad body language at home, bad body language at school, and the other issues going on. And so we, as a coach, we're trying to correct that all the way around and teach them, what a privilege it is. It's a privilege. We tell them it's a privilege to play basketball, guys. There's so many people that are disabled and they're sick and they can't play and they would love to do something as a group. Yeah. It's a privilege you walk out there. So you have to have that great attitude. The other thing with culture is that these 18-year-old kids don't realize the impact they're making on the 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-old kids in grade school and how much they look up to them. And so we always enforce that you got to be a great role model. We go through and we greet the kids in grade school and we high five them and we, and the other thing too we do is that we have, and everybody thinks they have a bad day. A lot of people have let a hangnail have a bad day. They don't really know what a bad day is, right? But here's the deal. When we have guys that are having, subpar practice, and they're feeling sorry for those, I always tell them the best way to get out of a funk on feeling bad about yourself is think what you can do for somebody else, right? So if you're in the business world, you bring, somebody some flowers or you bring somebody a cup of coffee on the court. What do? You think in your mind, how can I help this other person get a bucket? Or how can I help the team? Can I carry towels? Can I fill the water bottles? How can I help somebody else? And when you think about how can help attribute to somebody else's success, it makes you quit feeling sorry for yourself. And then in turn, you do better. And so we have that philosophy a lot and we implement it a lot because granted, everybody's going to have a bad game or bad practice and this and that. So when you have that ability to think, how can I do something better for somebody else? It's amazing how you can snap out of your funk and even in the middle of a game, be better.
Yeah. And going back to a previous point that you mentioned, and this actually tied into a previous, question that I just asked you about Frontenac and in general as a town. And I think that one of the added, it's both a responsibility, but both also like a real cool privilege is when you're in a smaller town, those high school athletes, as you kind of mentioned, they're kind of like superstars to those younger kids, and they're real legitimate role models who have a lot of eyes looking up on them that maybe in like more bigger cities or bigger areas wouldn't exist. But I definitely get the sense that there is that it's a greater privilege, responsibility, but also just something like really awesome and unique that it seems like your players get by being such a, you said like a role model and somebody famous to the younger kids in town.
Absolutely. We love when fans come and root us on. We've over the course of the last 6 games, we've probably quadrupled our pep club size, and we've got a fan of the game now, and we give them a greater. We just do a lot of cool things to up not only the spirit of the team, but the spirit of the school, the whole school in the town, and it's really working. And not only that, we enforce our guys to go. We want them to support the girls basketball, and then we have wrestling. We put those wrestling meets together, and we watch some of those when we can, and different things like that. But I always tell my guys, this is another thing we attribute to is when you're, your attitude will determine the type of life you live. We always tell them that. And I always tell them the great news about it, you get to choose your attitude. So it's like you can choose your life, guys. You just, and some of the guys don't get that right off the bat, but then they start, the more you tell somebody that they start realizing it. And so we try to let them know that so that they can kind of determine their own success on that platform.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of power that players have over almost even their outlook on things and their outlook on situations and the way they choose to handle things. I think that from a mental side of things, I don't know, especially teenagers, 16, 17-year-olds understand just how much power their own mentality or outlook on a situation is in terms of like the results that they'll get out of it, for sure. 100% agree with that. As we talk about the process of kind of developing the idea of having a we over me culture, You've touched on it a little bit, and I want to actually just ask the question directly. We're thinking about like a we over me practice. I know we could talk a little bit about the off ball touches and working on things like communication, but as you're building your program and seeing the success of your program, and you think about your practices in general, what does a we over me type of practice look like for your program?
Well, we start practice every day the same way. We start with pregame. We go through layups. We go through shooting from the wings, and we go through everybody's touch in the same way across the whole group. And then we go into a 3-on-2, and that kind of start getting warmed up, and that's just it's not quite full speed, but it's just going through getting a sweat on and that. And then we go through a Lewisburg drill, which is shooting, and then we have a star passing drill where we start talking and really communicating with each other and laughing and having fun. And then we break it down. And then from there, we have a little talk, and we go through what's going to happen for the day. We have a offensive emphasis, a defensive emphasis, and then we have a thought of the day. And then from there, we break it down. We get into practice, and our practices are extremely, extremely intense. We don't have water breaks. If you need a sip of water, you got to grab one out of the jug as quick as you can between drills, but or while you're not involved in a drill. But we go through practice. We get up and down the court. Most of our drills are usually they're working with at least 3 to 4 different events in basketball. Mm-hmm. So my passing, rebounding, shooting, closing out, rebounding, passing, and different things like that. Get up and down the court. And then we do a lot of everything we do is based on if we're doing a 3-man weave up and down the court, and we're doing we're going to run. If you travel, you run. If you miss a layup, you run. Okay. And the kids don't like it, and they hold them. And today we had practice, and we had 13 between travels and missed layups. We had 13 over the course of a minute, and they ran those 13 lines. And we'll go hard for that those different up and down the court drills. And then we stop everything. We shoot free throws. We put 33 seconds on the clock for a 4 line. You got 2 shots. And we'll bounce the ball, and the coaches have noisemakers, and we'll blow the whistles and horns and jump around. And we make it so difficult that when you shoot in a game, it's easy. And they have to focus and make those shots. And if they don't, they run, and the next guy up, we got to get 2 makes before we get out of it. And then we go to the next drill. And, we'll run a UCLA, which everybody probably knows that, with 2 different teams. And the loser, there's always a winner and a loser. And they're learning about it. And then they've got to run. There's always a competition. We have to make it competitive, or else, teams start going through the motions. And, from there, we'll work on bigs. We'll work on our guard moves. We'll work on hedges. We'll work on whatever we're going to work on. We have throughout, and we'll change up. And we always go over plays. We go over plays every single day. We tweak them every single day. We don't just work on it until the time's up. We work on it until we get it perfect for the day. Okay. And I'm not a big believer in just throwing in there 5 minutes and we're going to work on this. No, we're going to get it right, because, I believe in life that you're going to be, either towards something good, which is probably God's expectation. You're going to be great or excellent. And to get to the great or excellent, you have to put in different work than most teams are willing to put in. And if you want to get to that point, and I tell those kids, if you want to get to that point, let me know, because I'm willing to take you to that level. I'm willing to put the time in and work with you, but you got to let me know if you're willing. If a practice might go over 20 minutes or 30 minutes, but if you're willing to do it, you're going to be happy at the results. How good it feels on Friday night when you're riding home the bus and you're celebrating. Is it really worth it? And so we go through those, and then we'll get up and down. And then the one thing I like to do in practice, I make it really tough. I do a lot of 5-on-7, 5-on-8, full court, because I really believe that you make that chaotic, and I do a lot of no dribble too. People think I'm crazy for it, but I do a lot of no dribble, full court, no dribble. You got to, and it teaches kids, they have to catch the ball, they have to come down on 2 feet, and the other guys have to move without the ball. And teams that don't move very well without the ball struggle with that, and then pretty soon they have to figure it out, and it's tough on them sometimes. But then once I had one kid tell me last week, he said, "Coach, when you let us dribble the ball finally the last 5 minutes of practice," he goes, "it's almost like we're cheating." And I said, "That's the goal, son. That is the goal."
And your philosophy, and if, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is the idea that practices should be harder than the games are, correct?
No, they have to be. You
Hmm.
can't change your speed. You can't up your intensity in a game. Your games are, I mean, as a coach, you can go out there, you can call a few plays, or you can get, call a timeout the right time, or a few things like that. But you, as a coach, all what you're doing is all in your practices, your preparation, watching film, your game plan. That's what, as a coach, that's what you're doing. So, to me, I mean, I don't get me, I like games, going out there and performing and watch in front of all the fans. But to me, the best thing I love about coaching is practices. The practices. I love the practices.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I think that there's, to me, I feel like it would just make sense as a coach if you have the mentality that your practice is going to be harder than your games, because then at least I would think as a coach, and I'm curious if you feel the same way, that like I know that if I ran those practices really hard and we really gave everything that we had to have the best practice possible, that as a coach I'll know that I did what I had to do to like put my team in a position to be successful on the court. And I'm curious if that's kind of your thought as well, that if you have practices like that, it's a lot easier to live with the results in the game, to not maybe play the what if game as much, thinking back on what maybe you could have done in practice.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. I've been to, we've been involved with games where we walk out there and you got that kind of feeling in your belly, like I could have done more. Or, we could have worked on this in practice, or we're going to win harder. And you may be a little bit nervous and that, but when you go hard in practice and you get every little drip out of the kids, talent and that. When you go to the games, you don't have that feeling, because you're going to go out there and you're going to compete to the best of your ability. And sometimes the score doesn't reflect your performance, but that doesn't mean we win or we learn in games. We win and we learn, and sometimes on those learning experiences, when the scores doesn't add up to where you want it to be, you don't always necessarily have to feel bad. I've had losses where I thought the kids played great. We just
Sure.
got beat. You know, but that's okay. And sometimes you need to get beat to get those practices and those performance up. You know, and so it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I completely agree about the idea of I've coached games where we've lost, but I didn't feel that bad at all, because I know just to even get to the point that our team got to where the score was even the way it was because of how hard they worked, and if we hadn't worked that hard, it would have been a lot uglier. So I'm in agreement with you there. Um,
Sure.
you mentioned in your practices, one of the things about, if there's a travel, a missed layup, or some of those mistakes that get made, you're on the line, we're running, and it's very easy, and you know this, for players to start to get a little frustrated with one another, to start to point the fingers a little bit, or get frustrated if they feel like they're running because of a mistake that somebody else made. And obviously that's a little bit of a test to the culture. So how do things kind of stick together, maybe when players maybe on an individual basis start to get a little bit frustrated, or there maybe a little bit of conflict develops? When your culture has been tested, how do you kind of improve, smooth things over, and keep things going positively?
Well, it's funny because today we have a practice, and they came off this big win, and I knew they were going to be flying high, and we probably had one of the hardest practices of the year, and guys were kind of shell shocked, but you can't let it. We're early in the season still. You can't start thinking you're good, or we're going to be in big trouble. And so I don't mind when guys kind of start getting chippy and hold each other accountable, as long as they do it professionally. I think that's player coach team is better than a coach team any day. But when you hold them accountable, but for the most part, what I do is when we get those drills going, they can hold each other accountable. But then I have these top 10 guys, and I don't ever label them starting five or second five. I mean, they're just the top 10, 11 guys that are on the varsity. And when we scrimmage, most of the time I don't scrimmage those guys against each other.
Sure.
That's why I do a lot of 5-on-8, 5-on-7, 5-on-8, because the JV, they go against them. Because if not, they're so competitive. This group I got this year, they'll just go at each other's throats because they're so competitive. And so, I keep them united. and I keep those guys together, and then they're rooting for each other, and then the JV team in turn, what happens there is they're battling, and over the course of the last several years, actually 6 years since we've been working at Frontenac with the team, we do this, and the JV teams actually get way better because they have to just persevere and battle these varsity guys, and in turn they get better, and then they get beat in practice, but they go to these games, JV games, and they're beating teams, because they're used to really heavy competition, and so it works good for both groups. And then at the end we'll come together, and we always do something fun right at the end. We always usually they have to make 3 half-court makes, and they're laughing and having fun, and so it kind of, kids have short memories. It erases anything that might be hanging out there, and they're having fun, and then we break it down at the end, so that's kind of how we do it.
And I think that's kind of a real testament to your program, the fact that you can have kind of the hardest practice that you've had after like a big victory, and as we mentioned, your team's been doing well this year. It's been having some success, and I think that it's easy for maybe a coach to feel like they can like let off the gas a little bit, or even the players to feel like, hey, things are going well. We don't have to necessarily be like as 100% engaged. We know what we're doing. We got things going on, but it sounds like they're committed to more than just a win or a loss, and understanding more that it means more than just what's on the scoreboard, and that's a testament to how hard they're still willing to work, even if they have been successful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I use a lot of metaphors in life, but because they're really true. But I mean, in life, you think you get the top, somebody kicks you right back down. And these kids, they're in high school, they really don't have any clue about life yet, and I try to teach them some of that. But life's tough, and I tell you what, nobody's going to give you anything in life, and nobody's going to let you get the top easily. And so, they need to understand the point that they did well. We had a really tough practice today. Tomorrow we'll go in the film room and watch some of the highlights from that film. We'll go over the good and the bad, and then we'll praise them, and we'll keep them up and be positive. But I think I want the kids to be positive with each other. Sometimes I don't think it's bad for necessarily at least the head coach, to get push them, not necessarily super negative, but to push them and let them bond together. Sometimes I feel that I push them so hard they have to bond together against me, because they're just but I want that. I want them to bond together against, and at the end we'll bring it back together. And that it all starts with relationships. The kids need to know that you truly care about whatever. And when we get those kids, we've been together, and we work summers, and we take them all over the place, and we go eat and stuff. And so they truly understand that. So when they get that relationship with them, then you can push them to those levels, and they respond, and they don't worry about it. So it's kind of on the head coach to get those relationships built before you go forward with all that pressure.
And that point, though, it really can't be overstated about how it is a real tough balance sometimes that coaches have, where they're going to push their program, push their team to the absolute limits, and they could potentially sound like the bad guy or the negative person, or the one who's like always never satisfied with how they're doing, because the coach always wants more. But to offset that with having a program who also understands, oh, like, this is how hard our coach is, but I also know that my coach cares about me, and I want to work hard for them, and I respect them, and I have a positive relationship with them. I mean, at least in my experience, that is not an easy feat to kind of have both of those happening. And I can imagine that maybe took some time to kind of perfect that balance where you can be both of those at the same time.
Well, I'm on kids pretty hard in practice, because I'm looking for perfection, to attain that, and pushing them to their limits. And I always tell them, if I'm not pushing you or on you, it's probably because I don't care about you, or you're not probably a very good, I'm not looking at you to be a starter or something like that. So if I'm on you, if I'm not on you, be worried more than if I'm really on you. And but I never leave a kid down. So that's important, because a coach, I don't think coaches understand sometimes the how they have influence on kids. I really don't think that they understand, some coaches. But you can get on, but I never leave them down. I always end with positivity. I always end whether it's, they've improved their skill or they got to work on it more, I've always leave it as a positive and go forward from there. Because I really believe that, most kids want to do the best they can for you. And most kids, don't realize their full potential until it's pushed, and you have to be the guy that pushes it and gets it out of them. But you can do it in a way to where, you're going at it at a certain point in time, but then you have to pick them back up and let them know that the sun's going to rise in the east tomorrow, and everything's going to be okay, and they're doing a great job, and you love them.
Yeah, and I've made a couple mistakes, I think, along that way, where I haven't ended on that positive note, and I just pushed them, and practice ended, and I didn't kind of pick them up or was positive at the end, and I know I felt the difference, and I was like, man, I really did. We didn't end that practice well because I didn't build them back up, and I think when you do that, to do the build them back up piece and remain positive them at the end, I think that gets them ready to come back for the next practice because they know that it's going to be ended on that positive note, no matter how hard they work. And then it seems like it would just create like a good cycle where like they're ready to go every day because, like you said, they know by the time they leave that practice, they're going to leave on a positive note with their head held high.
Absolutely. I mean, we've all made mistakes in coaching. I mean, coaching is learning, and you learn every day, right? But I mean, I think the main thing is to learn from it and know that, you got to in those scenarios and practices different things on positive notes, and it doesn't matter how you feel inside that maybe practice didn't go 100% or whatever. You got to end it on a positive note and go forward the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to circle back to one of my original questions about what you like to run offensively and defensively, and what success have you had with what you run offensive and defensively, whether it's the pressing that you do or any sort of looks that you look to get to? What amount of success have you had on the court with your X's and O's that you can say, we're able to do this well because of the culture that we've established? How has one kind of led to the success with the other?
Well, my success, I mean, it's not mine. I mean, it's our success, but what I pushed our teams to do is pressure defense, press, and transition basketball. And people like watching that a lot better than coming down the court dribbling. I can't stand watch these teams. They dribble down the court so slow, and they. I mean, we don't have a shot clock yet here, but we really
either here.
But the thing is that our success has come from drive from our defense and just our relentless defense. It's hard to beat relentless guys that just never give up, and I try to teach that. And so we do that, but we have stack sets, 1, 2, 3s where we get guys ball to the post, ball to the stuff like that. But what we really like to do is when we come down, I try to base all our plays. We start most of our plays off the wing. We don't start it off the point because when you push the ball, get it flat, you spin it to the second side, you always have the ball in the wing's hands. And so we try to start all our plays from the wing. And we chase down a ball screen or we start it, throwing in or however we do it, but we start the play off the wing and then we go from there. But, we've got several different sets and we've got a continuous pick and roll that we do. And the guys, the guys that want to shoot so bad, they have to realize and you have to show them that, when the ball touches the third and fourth side, you really get way better looks. And actually in the last game we played in, I only had one guy with the green light to shoot a three. And
really?
And so our high scorer, he's always looking for that three, and he had most of his buckets in the paint and layups. And after the game, his dad came up to me and said, "Man," he said, "didn't he have a great game?" I said, "Yeah, he didn't shoot 1 3." He goes, "I know." He goes, "I can't believe that." He was like, "Shock," But from first parents' perspective, he's like, "What?" And some of them, they want him to crank those threes, but we didn't need that. We didn't need that. We could take all our guys off the bounce, and so that was our game plan. And it wasn't that I didn't have confidence in them shooting the threes.
Mm-hmm.
I knew they could attack, and I knew that they could get to the rim, and I knew they'd be more successful doing that, and they didn't need to shoot themselves out of the game. Most missed threes bounce and lead out into a run out on the other end, and the other team was fast and quick, and I didn't want that. And so they bought into it. They believed in it. we had a couple plays set up for threes, and at the end of the quarter, we made at the half before the half, we made one, and that was fun. And we had, I've got a couple guys I can give just a little longer leash because I know they don't look for that 3-point shot. They just, when it's there and they feel comfortable and they have their feet set, they can take it, and that's fine. But there's a few that I have to tell, you don't have the green light because I want them attacking. I want them attacking that.
Right.
And seeing the ball go down. And once they see the ball go in a couple times, then we can, going to loosen it up at the second half, and they have better. It gives them a better chance of making them because they've seen the ball go through. But I don't have any problem doing that, and I don't have any of the kids. None of the kids give me any trouble on it. But we set the tone. We set the tone from the first day of practice on it, and so we try to let everybody know that we're doing it for the betterment of them. We're not trying to, it's not a punishment or anything like that. And the kid that had the high points, he came and he was like happy as can be. He's like, "Oh man, you were right, coach." Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the nuances kind of with the situation that you just described is the idea that, maybe in certain situations, some players going to have, a green light, or some people are going to just have different responsibilities or things that they need to do, or different things that you're going to trust them with. And then one of the, caveats to that is you're going to potentially have different maybe expectations or different responsibilities, or have different things that you need out of certain individuals that you don't need out of others. And your team, I believe, if I'm getting this correct, has to understand that your expectations of maybe what you want individual players to do is not going to be equal, and that there's going to be different expectations, but they trust what you as a coach are telling players to do, and they understand, okay, it's not going to be equal. Coach may want this player to do this, and I may only be responsible for this, but I trust coach that what he says we're going to do, and we're going to be successful anyway. And I think that that's tricky to kind of have that individual conversations where certain players are delegated with certain responsibilities, and others maybe aren't asked to at certain times.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've got a couple sophomores, and they're doing great for us in the team. And they, one of them's really good on defense. I mean, this kid really good on defense. So I put him in. He gets the ball in the lane, wide open, he doesn't shoot. And I stop practice. I look at everybody else. I look at all the seniors now. I go, "Do you want Benny to shoot this ball?" You guys, "Yeah, we want him to shoot that ball right there." I said, "He can make that. That's easy." And so they give him confidence. They said, "We all want him to shoot that shot. When you don't shoot that shot, you're hurting the team. That's not a forced shot. We want you to take that shot." So then he gets confidence just because he's a sophomore. The ball doesn't know how old you are. He's out there playing, and he's doing really well. And so then he buys in, and the team buys in that they understand they want him to take that shot, even though he's younger, and it works out great for everybody. And the other thing we had is, we watched film, and we had a guy come off the bench in a tournament, or come to the bench, and he gave 3 or 4 guys 5, and then he sit down in his chair. And so I pointed it out on film. I said, "Look at this." So we went down and we gave high fives, and he was looking at me. He's like, "Yeah, that's what you want us to do, coach." I said, "Yeah, but there's 6 other guys down there and 2 managers. Are they not a part of the team anymore? Are we just saying, like, they're not a part of the team, they need to get on the bus?" "Well, no, coach." I said, "So here's our deal. We got to correct that. When you come off, we're giving everybody high five. We're going all the way down because all those guys are working hard for you, they're rooting for you. They're getting you water bottles, they're getting you towels, whatever it is. They are part of the team." And when you combine to that whole team concept, when you walk off the floor, we used to have guys that came off the floor, bad body language. They come off the floor, you could just see it in their body. We don't do that. We don't do that because you're coming off, you're confident with the people going on. You're coming off, you're getting a drink, you're toweling off, you're ready to root your team on and go right back on when called.
And I that's such a big thing to not neglect, is the aspect, like you mentioned, of body language. Because you take somebody out and their body language isn't good, all of a sudden it's like, man, do I want to put that player back in? Do I trust that player is going to go back in and have their head in the game? And I don't think that's a conversation any coach wants to be thinking while they're trying to do some in-game coaching.
No, it's awful, and it's contagious. Positive.
Yeah.
It's contagious, just like negative. Negative is worse. You get one guy coming off the bench or coming off with bad attitude or whatever, like that, it can spread bad like wildfire. So, I mean, that's where you turn to, you got to create that positive attitude with everybody and let them know right off the bat, that's unacceptable. We're not doing that. Okay. And if you want to do that, then that's up to you. You've determined your success, and you've determined your playing time, and you've determined all that. And, sometimes, just like I had the 6'8" kid, he missed some practices, and, boy, I'd love to have him in that game. But we just played, but we ended up winning it. But you know what? We gained more momentum by those, because those other players are watching me. They went to 5 practices over Christmas. We worked hard. He wasn't there. He was grounded at home for whatever reason. And then, they're looking at me. And if I slide him right back in, we lose total credibility and culture right off the bat. So you can't do that. You cannot do that.
Yeah. And that's like a big crossroads right there, right? For a coach is, what matters more to them? What lessons are you actually trying to teach your players? Because if you do make one decision, you're communicating one message. And if you do the opposite, you're communicating a completely different message.
Culture and discipline will get you further than talent, I believe. And I'm sure there's a lot of coaches out there that will disagree with me on that. But culture and discipline, a disciplined team and having good culture, will get you, with tough kids, get you further sometimes than some talent, just because you have that ability to play through things, to play through terminal and get everybody involved, not only in the game, but in the whole program, because let's be real, a lot of times everybody wants just to have a good team. Well, I'm concerned in having a great program,
Sure.
from your youth league to your junior high team to your high school and then the community. And when you can form that together, a lot of times you're going to go in the right direction.
And the situation you just mentioned about that one player not being able to play because, they're grounded, or the situation that happened at home, that message potentially gets sent to the younger levels and the youth programs. And so they would know, like, oh man, well, I know for a fact by the time I make it up to, high school, I already know kind of what the expectation is. I already know like what happens. And a lot of this groundwork's already kind of been laid if you stay consistent with, your culture and the expectations you have with your players, that by the time your youth comes up, I feel like a lot has already been taken care of, or a lot has already been understood by those players as they start to come in.
That's right. That's right. And if you can get some high schools don't have the ability to work with their junior high programs, but if you can get your assistant coaches and your junior high coaches and their assistant coaches, and even youth league, a lot of times those are just, dads or moms that are working with the kids, but if you can meet with those and kind of try to build a total program from bottom all the way to the top down, that where, they can emphasize those things. And a lot of parents that are wanting to help coach, you got to utilize those people, but you got to kind of train them and teach them how you want it done. That they're willing to do stuff. They just, some of them want some training on it, and then they'll spread the message for you.
Mm-hmm. Coach, I always like to ask anything that deals with culture or things of this nature. What advice would you give to a coach, maybe who is either starting out and just like isn't really sure where to start, or is taking over a program that maybe had, a non-existent or not a great culture? What advice would you give to that coach who's looking to kind of get things going on the right track with their team's culture?
Well, first thing I'd really advise is networking through coaches. Networking through the NABC, the conference, your local high school conferences, any college programs that are nearby, close, working camps. Network with coaches, because here's the whole thing. Okay, what you're doing in your community is no different than what's going on down the road, what's going on the East Coast, West Coast. All these coaches are going through the same thing. And when, as a coach, you can realize that and have that backing by other coaches. They don't necessarily have to be college coaches. They can be, there's other high school coaches, there's youth league coaches. But when you can go through that and share things, because let's be real, everything I'm doing, I've just stole from somebody else. I just stole it from somebody else, tweaked it a little bit for my program, and put it into effect. And so when you can network with those coaches and bond and form relationships that you can bounce questions off of, or different material you can swap out and different things, then you can get a platform for what fits your community and your school and go forward with what your beliefs are.
And I I think that what you said about, the idea of networking, getting to know other coaches, I think that's so true. I think coaching can just sometimes feel like such a isolating profession, and that it's you and a bunch of teenagers and you got to like figure it out on your own. But man, there's just so many successful coaches and so many coaches who do things well that why wouldn't you learn from them and network and see what's been successful instead of trying to reinvent the wheel yourself, right?
Absolutely. And that's the thing I told you when I go back to these college coaches and NBA coaches and high school coaches that I've been able to get to know and network with, and that is that, they go through the same thing, and they're willing, they're such great people, and they're willing to help you in any way. I mean, these guys, they say, call me anytime. I'll help you out. You're a coach. You're one of us. Call us. Give us a call. We'll send you something. We'll do this. We'll do whatever we can for you. We'll come down. We'll see you. And it's so cool to have that. And then, to be able to take that and really pay it forward to other coaches when they're having, because let's be real, when you're winning, everything's great. When you're losing, it feels like you're on an island by yourself. And that's not really the case. You're not by yourself. You're still doing the best you can, teaching kids culture, teaching them life skills. You're not on an island, okay? As long as you're doing the best and trying to teach these kids. So, when you have that feeling going into games and practices, you can do better, you can work with your kids to get them to a different level because you have those beliefs behind you and you have people behind you believing that.
Yeah, 100%. And just as a quick little add on to that, I think it's always important just to remember that even those like successful coaches you might network with or talk to who've done a lot and have seen a lot of successful things, they've also been through any of the lows that any coach may have gone through as well. Whatever that is, that coach has gone through it also.
Absolutely.
To wrap up, Coach, and this has been great, there's a couple of questions I like to ask every guest. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this first one. Thinking back on your coaching career, what is a coaching moment that you think others listening would be able to learn from?
Well, it's actually not I wasn't doing high school. We were doing a AAU tournament in a pretty good sized city. And we played 2 days, and we played this team that was, quicker than us and taller, and had a combined group from different cities. And we were all out of 3 cities right here locally. And this school was out of a area. This team was out of an area that was quite a bit bigger area. And we played them. We lost by about, I think, 10 or 12 points the first day. And then we played back, and the second day, and we got to play and we got to the championship with this team. And our guys, they kind of had that look in their eyes, that fear look in their eyes a little bit. And I told them, I said, guys, these guys put their pants on the same way, one leg at a time like us. We need to go out there and play hard as we can. And we were down by about 5 or 6 points. And I turned back to my assistant. I said, you think there's any way we can press these guys? And he said, well, you've always believed in the press. I don't know why we're not doing it now. And so we start pressing. Well, these guys were, they could dribble the ball really well. But, once you got it up in their chili, they weren't as good dribblers anymore. And so they started, we turned the momentum, and we tied it, and we went up, 3 or 4, and we went up 7 or 8. And next thing you know, at halftime, and this is just a memorable story because the way it worked out, right before, I think it was right after half, we went up about 12 points, and the coach walked out on the floor and took the ball and threw it up in the air, and they left. And I've never had that happen to me before. I couldn't believe it in a tournament like that. It was a big tournament. It was sponsored by Adidas. It was a big tournament. And I said, I asked the director, came over. I said, what's going on? What's next? And he goes, well, you guys won. They left. They said they've never been played that hard by a team. And so in the midst of all this, there was a parent on the other side that had just been yelling the whole time. And I don't really listen to a lot of parents now, but this guy was just constant. He comes storming over to the bench, and I'm thinking this probably isn't going to be good. And so he comes over. He said, are you the coach of this team? And I said, yeah, this is our team we're coaching, And he said, I want you to coach my son. He said, this guy's awful. He quit, and I looked at him. I said, well, we just put this team together for about 2-3 tournaments. That was it. And, he goes, you're not a big, high-powered AAU team? I said, no, we just put these guys together and practiced about 3 times and got out here and played. And it was just, kind of a shock to him, and it was a shock to me because I really thought that, this guy was coming over to get on me about something, but he ended up, praising us and wanted his boy to be on our team. And, like I said, we had worked with this team a few times, and we were just teaching them the way to play and right and wrong and get out there and play hard, not worry about the score. And so it's just kind of a memorable moment that we always talk about it. And these kids, now they're graduated, and they were from 3 different schools, and they always come back and we always talk about that and joke about that, how interesting that game was, But it just shows, we got beat the first day by 13, but, and they were a good team. But if you persevere through and you just play hard nosed ball, good things will happen a lot of times, and don't quit.
Yeah, I love that. And just the idea of sticking to what you believe in, as you said, like, well, we press, so why aren't we pressing? Let's go press. If that's what we believe in as a program, that's what we do. And that is wild. I'm trying to picture the situation of a team just walking off, and
it
it's
was
wow.
crazy. Seen it before. I've never seen it before like that. But the team had never been pressured because they were quick and they were so physical team that they just thought they could walk in and do anything they want. They've never been challenged like that by a bunch of kids that really, we just took magic markers and drew on our shirt, I'm saying our numbers or whatever, we really weren't sponsored or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is that, I think that it woke me up a little bit, because you have to do what you do and do what you do good. And we press and we get up and we play hard defense. And I was letting that team take myself out of that as a coach. And my assistant told me, don't do that. Do what you do. And we do. Sometimes some teams we adjust how we press a little bit and stuff like that, but we don't change our offenses a whole lot, or several offenses. We don't really change them because of zone or man or anything like that, because we don't let another team dictate how we play. Mm-hmm. We're going to play practice how we play in practice.
Yeah, and exactly, not letting the other team kind of impose their will on you, and also have some good assistants who are willing to nudge you in the right direction and kind of help you get your head on straight too. Always good to have that as well. Awesome.
Don't get assistants that are not willing to speak up and disagree
Mm-hmm.
with. Get assistants willing to vocal their opinion and be an intricate part of the timeouts and everything. Because that's what I love. I mean, I want an assistant to get on there and, have an opinion and be able to talk to the kids and share their opinions with the kids and me.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Awesome. Coach, to wrap up, I give every guest what I call a 60-second soapbox, though I'll never time you. Platform for you to get out your final idea, closing message, closing thought, something you'd want to leave the listeners with. So I'm just going to open up the floor to you and let you take it from here.
Well, I think my biggest thing is, and you probably hear this a lot, but at this day and age, the one thing I see is kids want instant gratification on everything. Okay. They don't want to have to work. And this is even adults. Okay. They want to raise immediately in business. They want to go into they want to have the biggest house, the nicest car, whatever it is, they want to have the championship without working for it. They want whatever it is. And so I think that, you stay humble and you keep the kids on a straight course. And if it means by winning a big game and having the toughest practice of the year, like we did today, you keep them humble and you keep them hungry. And that's my biggest thing. Kids, they want, they want something. So we're just going to go run down to the Walmart and we're going to buy it. And we don't have to take, kids don't have to take out the trash for 2 weeks or whatever it is to earn that. And as a parent, I know you want to give your kids everything, but sometimes you're not doing them any justice. There's love and there's tough love. You're not doing them any justice on that. And so that's one of my biggest things. And then, the one, I'll end it with this. The one thing I like to tell the kids, and it's a saying that a really good friend gave me, and I used this for our last game because this team had beat us, ended our season the last 2 years.
Okay.
Going to state. And so I told him, I said, fate whispered to the warrior, okay, you cannot withstand the storm. And the warrior whispered back, I am the storm. And the kids bought into that, and they really, really believed it. And you have to give kids belief. If you can give a kid a belief and give him something to be positive and shoot for, kids want that, and they'll play for you. They'll do anything they can for you as long as you give them that belief and help them attain that.
That is, I like that quote a lot. That's awesome. And Coach, before I forget and wrap this up, the book one more time that you referenced earlier. It's The Positivity Tribe, correct?
Yeah, The Positivity Tribe in the locker room. You can buy it on Amazon, different places. I'm not real sure. I mean, my wife ordered all these, but we got them for the kids, and we even use them in our business. We use them for our dental offices because it just, it's a great read, and it's a basketball story, but it teaches people that you can get more in life by rising above that, picking people up. We rise by lifting others up, and if you can buy into that concept, not only you're going to be a great basketball player, you're going to be successful in life, you're going to be successful in marriage, you're going to be successful all the way around.
Excellent. Awesome. Definitely sounds like a good read and one that should be on Coach's reading list for sure. Coach Pyle, I want to thank you for spending some time talking about your program, talking about the we over me culture and some of the different aspects that looks like off the court as well as on the court, what that culture looks like. It sounds like you guys got a great thing going on over there. Hopefully everybody stays safe, and best of luck and continued success to you and your program, Coach. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to do this. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.